right. Hey, welcome everyone. Chris Petri here. Thanks so much. We're kind of getting started here. This is the finished painting we're going to create. I think we're going to have an incredibly great time doing it. We're going to use the glazing technique. We're also going to cover all the colors you're going to need in your palette. We're going to cover the greens and the blues and the purples for your backdrop of your painting, and then we're going to cover the beautiful orange and reds for your sort of your beautiful complementary color that's going to actually sing out in your painting and actually create almost like a star of the show. So our sun, our setting sun here, is going to be the star of the show with our beautiful orangey red glow, and then the reflections in the water. And then we have all beautiful tons of supporting actors here. We have our buildings, our boats. We have a steamship and some fishing boats here, and sailboats. And we have a little sailboat here in with some figures in the foreground to kind of give everything a nice, beautiful three-dimensional quality. So all these things are going to equal an absolutely beautiful painting. We'll cover all the details here for you, and we'll get started in just a second. Thanks for watching. Okay, everyone, we just saw the finished painting. We're going to get started here, so I figured I would kind of maybe just take a little bit of time to explain how I did this sketch here. And then sometimes I figure it might be helpful if I can just, instead of drawing this out, it's very simple type sketch. The main thing was that I looked at this photograph, and you can see the photograph here. The distant shoreline is about halfway on this painting, and I thought to myself it might be a little bit better if I moved that shoreline, that distant shoreline, up just a little bit. I tend to think that a lot of artists will usually, professional artists will kind of agree with the fact that if you can try to keep a painting's space divisions in a certain ratio, that it tends to look a little better. So most, again, professional artists will tell you oh, okay, if you're going to create a painting and you have a distant shoreline, you'd probably be better off either raising it up a little bit and making it a little bit more higher than the halfway point of your painting, or a little bit lower. So you kind of have a little room to play with when you're creating your sketch. So this person that took this photograph in the early 1900s of this painting here in France, in this beautiful seaport of Le Havre. Hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. This was the hometown of Claude Monet, the great oil painter, impressionistic oil painter in the 1800s. So we're kind of contemplating the idea of, we want to kind of either keep our distant shoreline up about a little bit above halfway or a little bit below halfway. And then I made the decision, let's go a little bit above halfway. So this is the halfway point here of our paper. If we were to measure our paper exactly, 9 inches, it's 9 inches across all the way over here. So 4.5 inches is right here. And I decided to just go up about an inch to give me so this gives us our shoreline, which is a little bit above halfway, which is going to look a little more pleasing in a painting. Usually if you split your painting right down the middle and do a halfway point here with your shoreline or your space divisions in your composition, that's going to tend to look a little bit less pleasing versus if you move up your horizon line or your shoreline, or you move your shoreline down a little bit below halfway. It's going to look a little more pleasing to the viewer. It'll look a lot better, actually. But you don't have to always follow that rule. Sometimes you're going to want to make it halfway, and that's okay too. So there's no real rules that you have to follow every time. You just look at things and kind of decide for yourself whether you think it's going to look a little better moving your horizon line up a little bit or down a little bit from the halfway point. But again, you can also leave it at the halfway point too, and that's fine. A lot of the great artists over all of the time we've been looking at art and looking at great paintings, many times great artists will put a halfway they will divide their canvas or their paper, their composition halfway between each space division. But like I said, a lot of times they probably choose to move it up or below that halfway point, but occasionally they will leave it at the halfway point for whatever reason they decide that's the case. And you're the same way too. You're the artist. You're going to decide when you're creating your painting whether you want to leave it at the halfway point or you want to move it up a little or down a little or even push it higher. So you can push those boundaries on your compositions, and when you're doing your drawings, I'm hoping that's, you see what I'm saying. You get it. So now, when I did this sketch, I basically just said, I'm going to use this, obviously, the photograph here. This is my main source of information. And I basically just kind of created a light sketch of the buildings over here, this building here. Then I came over here. But what I did, I took artist liberty and I said, I want to leave a space here where the water kind of flows out. So this way, if you notice in a painting, if you're kind of walled off and you have everything kind of blocking you and you don't have a way of kind of exiting through the painting, that can sometimes feel like it's a limited painting where you don't feel like you can actually move through it and feel like you have a free feeling of flowing through things. So that's why I left this opening here in the buildings where the distant port ocean horizon line is. So I wanted to leave a space there with some water through there. So we feel like that if we were in a boat or, just enjoying the scene and we could see through there so that we could see out into the further distance, wherever that may lead. And then I just continued on here and kind of got this building here, right there. And then I kind of did a little bit of a free-flowing lines here. We might kind of have these little bit of slight angles here. So you can kind of get your angles as you go through here. These buildings are getting closer to us. So you can imagine as we go over to the right, these buildings are much closer over here to us as if we were in a boat looking at this scene. These buildings are closer, and then as they trail this way and go across the picture this way, they're getting smaller and in the distance. And then finally here in the far distance, you're seeing the buildings over here to the left. It's pretty straightforward. And then, of course, I created this beautiful steamship here. And I created another boat or two over here, sailboats. And then I put some masts in. So I put some vertical lines just to represent some masts, sketch them in. You can always take an eraser and erase a little bit of your lines if you feel like you've maybe gone a little bit too dark or you've made things a little bit too exaggerated or something. You feel free to use your eraser, your kneaded eraser. And incidentally, all my art supplies are down below in the comments section. I don't know if anyone noticed that, but on my videos, I leave all my art supplies for either watercolors, whatever kind of videos I'm doing. I'll leave all the art supplies. You can go check them out, research them, research the prices, research the quality, but all of the art supplies that I put in my channel down below in the comments section, you might have to click on the word more to see more information, and then you'll see the links to where you can go to Amazon and look up these art supplies. I really stand by them because I use them all the time, and that's why I put them in my comment section below, because I've used them and I know they work well and they're really perform great. I wouldn't put in art supplies in my comment section below if they don't work or if they're not really good quality. But you can always shop from there. At least you have like a point you can look at, and then you can also shop something a little more expensive if you want, or a little less expensive, however your budget is. That's fine. But I always mention that I do have my art supplies listed below so you can research everything. And we'll keep going here. So again, we got pretty much our sketch really, in with a nice flow. Didn't take us long. I didn't want to take too long to go through the whole sketch process, because let's get to the painting. That's the fun part, obviously. But we do have to do the sketch and do it, somewhat accurately. And I think everything is looking pretty good. So here's our original photograph we're using from the early 1900s, late 1800s of the Le Havre Seaport in France. and it's in I think it's the northwest of France. So we're gonna and Monet painted there all the time, and he grew up there. So you'll see many Monet paintings that are from that area of his oil paintings. So I think we're good. We have our sketch done. We kind of explain how we get everything all situated here in our pencil sketch. And again, I just created from, this is a softer lead. This is I think it's an 8B lead. So it's like a darker lead pencil, so you can see as I sketched here, which is good. I want you to see the pencil lines. If you don't like pencil lines in your paintings, you can always also use a very light pencil line, but I just make them darker, obviously, so that you can see them here on camera, on video. All right, let's get excited. We're going to get ready to paint soon. Let's take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll start mixing our colors. I'll tell you the color scheme we're going to use. And of course, we're going to use the glazing technique, which is a beautiful watercolor method and technique that a lot of artists use. A lot of watercolor artists do use the glazing technique, the glazing method. And so we'll cover that next. We'll cover all the details of the colors, the glazing technique, how we're going to do all of this to get this painting done. And it's going to actually go pretty quickly because we're going to do a beautiful simplistic type of painting where we're not going to get involved in a lot of colors. We're going to use a limited palette, let's say, where we're not getting into too many colors. We're just going to kind of get the effect of a beautiful sunset with cool colors. At the evening time when the light is kind of getting cooler, we're feeling kind of a cool type, maybe a little bit of fog, a little bit of that, damp, humid kind of feeling in the nighttime when the sun is going down along the ocean, the sea coast, and we're going to see we're going to make a beautiful sun here. Let's draw that actually before we finish up here. Let's just create our sunlight and our sun here, our setting sun. So we have our drawing. We'll put that over here right for now. We'll just set that up there. And then we can even ask ourselves, well, where do we want to put the sun here? Maybe I would say a great spot is right here. Because if we put it here, if we put the sun maybe setting up here, like this, maybe even right here, like that, that's great because then we can get the reflections down in the water of the sun like this. What do you think? Isn't that a good idea? I think that's a good idea that we do it that way. Like that. So our reflections of the sun setting here, orange glow of the sun. And I think that's good. We will have a wonderful time creating this. I may make this, the globe of the sun, just a little bit smaller. Like that. That might be a little better. Okay. All right. So let's come back. We'll mix our colors and we will get started. All right. So now let's keep motoring on here. We're going to get the washes and our glazings on the paper now. So I'm predominantly going to use 3 different brushes. This is a number 50 Da Vinci and a number 30, so a 50 and a 30 Da Vinci synthetic watercolor brush. And these are the square or the flat brushes as they call them. These can get you a lot of beautiful washes and water and colors on your paper quickly, efficiently. And what I'll do is I'll mix the colors with my number 8 Da Vinci travel brush. So I have a Da Vinci travel brush here, number 8, and this is a Kolinsky Sable natural hair brush, and these are synthetic brushes here, which are the Da Vinci brand, and it's a number 50 and a number 30 millimeter. Square brushes or flat brushes as we call them, and we're going to use these 3 brushes mainly, and we'll be fine. So the first thing I'm going to do is let's mix our colors. So what I'll do is I'll set my other brushes alongside here on the table and we'll start mixing our colors. And what I wanted to mention is your colors for this painting, I'm going to move my phone here. We're pretty much, I don't think we're going to use the reference photograph anymore because now we're just going to kind of be more creative with our painting and just go with the flow. And we'll show you the colors here as we go as to how we're going to paint this. So first thing I'm going to do is I think I want to use a transparent blue. I think that'll look good. But I'll use opaque blue too. So let's do this here. Let's get the blue. Let's do this. Let me move these up here. That's cobalt blue. So I want to mix up a good amount of cobalt blue. And we're going to have not that many colors, so you can imagine. I'll use a touch of burnt sienna in that blue. Just a little bit. Then I'm going to make some cerulean blue over here. And some water in that. And then maybe a little bit of burnt sienna in that too. That might be a little too much, so I'll add more cerulean blue. Like that. Okay, so now we have cobalt blue with a touch of burnt sienna just to calm down the blue a little bit. It's a little bit high intensity when we use it straight. So instead of using that straight cobalt blue, we add a little bit of just a touch of the burnt sienna. Then we do the same thing with the cerulean blue. We mix up a good amount of cerulean blue here. And we add, again, just a touch of the burnt sienna just to kind of mellow out that cerulean blue. Because cerulean blue is pretty, it's a bit opaque. But it can't hurt us to add a little bit of the burnt sienna to it. And we can also, when we're painting, we can add some straight paint anytime we want to the painting. But when we're starting out, let's kind of gray it down a little bit, so to speak, which is adding like a complement to the color. And what else can we do here? We can also notice that we're going to have cobalt blue down here, and then let's mix a little bit of green, just a touch of the sap green over here, like this. To the cobalt blue over here. A little bit of sap green to that. So now we're getting kind of like a nice mixture of blues and greens, but mostly blue, and that's the cobalt blue. And then we'll even add a little purple, some violet over here on this side. So now you can kind of see we're mixing up pretty much a really nice blue, green, purple. So we have our main colors, cerulean blue with a touch of burnt sienna, cobalt blue, touch of burnt sienna. Then down here on the bottom, we're going to have our little bit of purple, violet. This is Winsor Newton Ultramarine Violet, which is the best violet I've found ever. When I'm working with watercolors, this is always my violet I use, my purple. And then here I use the cobalt blue. And then over here we added a little green to the cobalt blue. So we have a little bit of a blue-green mix. So a blue, blue-green, blue-purple. Up here, again, we have our standard cobalt blue and our cerulean blue. And then over here, let's add a little bit of orange up here. So this will be our complementary, kind of our real, a little bit of that with some cadmium red. Maybe a little bit of alizarin crimson too. So that's going to be more of our sun. That's going to be our setting sun color with some of the highlights in the water. This will be like the, if we were thinking about a musical concert or an opera concert, the orange is going to kind of be like the soloist, the singer, the lead singer. Or if it's an orchestra, maybe this is going to be the lead violinist that's going to solo and do the solos for the violin parts of the orchestra, of the music. And all these other colors are going to kind of be just supporting this orange. And then with how that translates to the painting is the sun that we're going to create here, the setting sun with the beautiful glow of that sun, and the reflections in the water of that orangey red color. That's going to be the same thing. That's going to be like the lead singer or the lead violinist or the lead soloist. So that's just kind of a way to think of it musically in a sense. So we want to have a really good composition and have maybe just like one part of the painting really take over and just sing out and really be exciting, and the rest, everything's kind of working together to support that. All right, so now I've mixed all my colors to get started. I'll empty my water bucket. You can kind of see the water's getting a little murky there. I'll take my water, I'll clear up my water, and we'll pour some fresh clean water in there. And then the next thing we're going to do is take our paper, and we're just going to kind of dampen our paper the whole way across. So I'll take my larger brush, which is the 50 millimeter. And I'm just going to take some clean, fresh, I just poured some fresh clean water in my water bucket. And let's just go across the whole painting like this, the whole paper. And just do a nice light coating of fresh clean water. And we don't have to spend too long on this. We just want to get a nice damp wetness to the paper so that when we start going over now with our colors for our first coating, our first glazing, our first wash, it's going to flow real nice and blend real nice, all the colors. All right, so I just completed that first bit of light coating of water over clean, fresh, clean water. You have to empty your water bucket at this point. So if you've mixed all your colors in your palette, wow, this is really important. This is so important. Once you mix all your colors first, because we're pre-mixing our colors, does that make sense? We're going to pre-mix our colors first because we don't want to be in the middle of our painting and start scratching our heads and going, oh my God, what colors did I use? Or what colors did I mix? Or do I need to mix more? What colors do I do? That'll be too confusing. First thing we do is we stay organized, mix our colors first. We get them in our palette, all mixed up in our palette. We have enough paint and water to cover this whole paper. Once that's done, we take our water that's in our water bucket, which is going to be all muddy looking because we've mixed all these colors and rinsed our brush off, over and over and again to get all the colors here. Then we do that. We empty the bucket, get fresh, clean water in, and that's when we take our large flat brush like this, and we coat the whole paper with fresh, clean water. And then we have the gorgeous readiness of the paper. Now, what we're going to do is take the blues and just start working these blues into the painting. So I'm just going to sort of start getting these blue washes across here, like this. Okay, like that. Doesn't have to be perfect. Then you can come over here and you get your blues and greens. And just get some blues and greens in there. Like that. And that's our first wash. And then we add a little orange too, but we're going to use the smaller brush right now because we're going to use the orange a little more sparingly, the orangey red. So let's take our number 30, which is a smaller, and there's other brushes you can purchase too. You'll see down in the description box below. I have all my art supplies in my description box. So I have these brushes in there, and I have other brushes too that are, different. They might be a little more thicker. These are kind of thin looking. You can kind of see how thin those are. There's thicker ones you can purchase. I'll have some of those in there too. But this is what we want to do next. We want to take a little bit of this orange glow and do this. Quickly get that orangey glow on there, but not too much mixing. If you can imagine, you just want to get it on real quick. Like this. You can mix up a little more orange like that. If you have to, as you're going with a little red. Okay, get some of that orangey glow here. A little bit in the water too. And that looks good, and you can add a little more here and there, but very little though over here. but that's just all about blending. So you just blend that orange around a little bit, but try to keep it kind of concentrated over here. Maybe a little bit over here, but we'll concentrate the orange glow over here by the sun setting. And I think that's fine. That looks pretty good. Okay, so now we have to let this dry 100%. And that's one of the keys to watercolor. If you're using the glazing method, the glazing technique, and I have that in my book. My book's below if you ever want to be interested in checking out my book. All of my watercolors, my best watercolor paintings over the last 5 years are in my book below. You can see a preview on video of my book, quick video. It's like 2 minutes long, and I cover every page. I go through each page of the book in my video so you can kind of see what's in the book. So you don't want to buy a book if you can't see what's in it. Because then if you get it and you look at it and then it's nothing, you thought there might be a lot of paintings in there, and there's only like 2 or 3 paintings, you'd be very upset. So I have all the pages of my book in a quick video below so you can see what my book looks like. But I'm telling you, in my book I cover a lot of glazing technique paintings just like, are similar to this one. And I also cover the alla prima technique, which is a little different, which is painting without the glazings and just starting in one place of your painting and working your whole painting out from there. So I do the 2 main techniques of watercolor glazing technique and the alla prima technique. So if you want to check out my book below, it's a great read. You'll be able to see incredible amounts of paintings that I've created over the last 5 years that are the best of my best paintings. And I hope you'll definitely purchase it, and you won't go wrong with it. You'll have years and years of painting from my book, because you can take all the paintings and just work from those paintings and try to paint and follow along and create each of the paintings I've created numerous times. And that will really get you really in a solid way of painting that's going to always stick with you, and you'll have that basic knowledge of creating paintings in the alla prima technique or the glazing technique that I use. And when you practice those over and over and over again, they become just part of your natural technique in the way you paint, and then you won't have any questions. You'll always be able to just kind of attack paintings when you're going to do them, and you already have that confidence that you're going in, you're doing the painting, you're going to use the glazing technique, or I'm going to use the alla prima technique, or even in some cases you're going to say, oh wow, I'm going to use both the alla prima and glazing technique interchangeably as I go through my painting, and I'm just going to kind of go with the flow. So it's really, if you learn the both techniques, then you can use them in combination or exclusively each of those, and you'll really have the watercolor medium handled. You'll have all the basic knowledge you'll need to create beautiful paintings. So I'm hoping you'll check out my book. And let's get started. Once this dries, though, we have to let this dry 100%. So let's do that. Let's let this dry. You can use a blow dryer. Then it dries in probably 10, 15 minutes, or 10 minutes even, 5 to 10 minutes with a blow dryer. Or you can let it dry naturally for an hour or 2, maybe 2-3 hours. Up to you, totally up to you. You're the artist. You decide if you want to let this dry naturally or if you want to use a blow dryer to get a quicker dry on this. This is actually an Arches block paper, and it's the orange covered Arches block paper, which has the orange cover, and so it's 300, 150 paper, Arches paper, rough texture paper. And a lot of artists use this paper constantly. I see that a lot of the professional artists that I've followed over the years, a lot of artists use this paper. It's very popular. Okay, all right, so let's come back in just a second after this dries, and we'll continue on. All right, we're getting started again. I just wanted to mention it's really critical if you can let your paper dry 100% before you start with your second glazing. That'll really be incredible. If you can let that drying process happen, whether you use a blow dryer or if you let it dry for 2 or 3 hours, the main thing you'll know is that when you and this is gum block paper again, so this is the Arches orange cover, Arches rough paper, gum block paper. What I do is once I do my first glazing and the paper's wet and we've got that first wash on, the paper's all buckled. It's all you can see all the buckling of the paper and the high spots and low spots. The reason we let it dry is so that it can become very, very tight again and flat again, your paper. And this way, when you go over with your second glazing, it's going to be a beautifully flat surface for you to start painting again and getting all your washes on without having problems of trying to work with all the buckles that could really throw off your washes. So I know from experience, and you're the artist, you're going to learn this from experience. So if maybe you're going to start a little bit early, and then you'll say, oh yeah, Chris is right. Let's let it dry naturally and let it dry flat so that the paper isn't buckled anymore. And then you do your next glazing, your next wash. So that's why I do mention it, because it's really tough if you're trying to paint and the paper's all buckled and wavy, as well as the washes become very distorted. If you're trying to paint into really damp paper with other washes on top, it gets really out of control, and a lot of times it can ruin a painting real easily and real quickly. And I've noticed it's happened, for me a lot of times when I painted, years ago when I first started using the glazing technique. That happened to me often when I would let the paper, I'd start doing another wash, my second glazing or my second wash on top of my first one, but I hadn't let the first one dry first, and then next thing you know, all the paint was flowing everywhere and I wasn't getting good results. So I always mention, let that first glazing, when you wash over the top of your first paper glazing, your first wash, let that dry 100%, and that's no problem. Then after that, either with a blow dryer or you let it dry 2, 3, 4 hours, then you go back in again, and then you have so much of an easier time doing your next wash on top of this one. Okay, so that really is important. Thought I'd mention that. And what we'll do is we'll do another round of mixing up some more paints. So I will take some more cobalt blue over here and some more cerulean blue over here, and maybe a little bit of that orange in there too. So we have that. And then down here we'll do the same thing. A little bit of that purple, and then blue, cobalt blue, and then a little bit of the green, sap green over here. Just so we have a little bit of mixes of color there in case we need it. But I think we're going to keep this pretty simple, and maybe just do some cobalt blue. And what we'll do is we'll try to get a little bit of a darker wash over here. So this is now where we start going over with our darker wash. And what I'll do is I'll go around the sun here a little bit. You can kind of see how I'm going to do that. I'm going to go around I'll just carefully paint around that globe of the setting sun, and then continue on like this and just kind of do some washes like this. And this is all. You have fun now. This is your second glazing, so you're going to have some fun and enjoy just using some of your colors here, some blues over here. Then I would rinse my brush off again. Sometimes you can rinse off your brush and dry a little bit of water off on a tissue if you don't want too much water. But then that's when I blend in the colors and just start blending everything like this. Like that. A little bit of red and a little bit of orange. Like that. I even go over with a little bit of, you can blot up a little bit of paint too if you want. Like that. All right, and then we're going to continue blending here. And what I'll do is, at this point, I'm going to start getting in a little bit of purple, a little bit of orange here between these buildings. And then we'll start getting in some of that darker blue, like this. So I use some cerulean blue and some cobalt blue, a little bit of purple, and some of the mixtures down below. And let's do these buildings now. So I'm going to make these buildings kind of darker blue, like this. And this is again where we're kind of, maybe we're going off the script a little bit. We're kind of creating now our own fun painting where we're just enjoying the process, and we know we want to make things we can kind of paint over this steamboat here. With that blue, we can paint the steamboat over with the blue. And if you have a big puddle of paint, you can always lift up a little bit with the tissue or paper towel. Okay, so we're just, again, maybe a little more cerulean blue, a little more cerulean and cobalt blue. Then maybe we just gray that down a little bit, like that, with some of the greens. Okay. And if you have some if you see some things like this, you can kind of see how that's starting to blossom out. Sometimes if you add too much water, your paint will start to get out of control of the washes, so you don't have to worry. You blot up a little bit with your tissue, and it should be fine. And then we're going to do the same thing. More dark blues over here. And then you can also use your round brush here. If you find that you're starting to get into some details that need a smaller brush, you can get into a smaller flat brush, or you can use a round brush too with this painting. No big deal. Either way is going to work. And then we're going to do some darker bits of color under there. Maybe a touch more of the cerulean blue. A little bit of more burnt sienna there. Okay, so you can add some colors in there for a little bit of a darker bit of shadowing and reflections on the water. Like that. You can just add a little bit of darker reflections there. And some more of the... So these might be good as we go to do the shadowing of the buildings, the reflections of the buildings in the water, like this. Like this. Plenty of blue. Like this. Okay, so we're doing some shadowing in the water, like that. Same thing over here. And again, if you have a couple washes, that's where letting things dry help out. But you can kind of see we have the wash is going really well for us here. And what we'll do is now we can kind of see that we have plenty of water here where we can start to get some. You could always take a spritzer bottle and spritz on some dampness to the paper. And then start to get your your washes in your water like so. Okay, we're going to leave that a little bit. But you can kind of see how now I'm going to start to do a little bit of that water, that wave action here, that little bit of that waviness to the water. We'll do more of this in a minute. But you're kind of seeing how everything is starting to work together now for the whole of the painting. It's like we're harmonizing everything together, the colors. We're blending everything together, the colors, the washes. We're getting some of those nice wave marks on the paper here close up. So you kind of just take your brush and go back and forth like this, like the waves kind of flow. You know, if you get a good feeling, you think to yourself, oh, wow, nice. We're on the water. We can feel the waves. Or you're maybe by the ocean and you're seeing the waves. You kind of get that thing in your mind, that little bit of emotion and a little bit of thoughts of the waves in your mind. And then you start doing the same thing with your brush. And then you create those kind of nice choppy looking waves here in the foreground. And then as we get here in the further distance, it's a little more calmer. We don't see the details, I guess, here in the further distance. But that's really what you want to have here right now, is this kind of look to the painting where you have your first light wash in, and on the paper you let it dry 100%, and then you're going to let your first wash dry, and then you're going to create your second wash, which we just did, and that's the darker here, the darker colors, the darker blues. But you're only going to do these darker washes here once that first wash is completely 100% dry. We talked about that just a second ago. And then now that we have our second wash done, where we did some of these choppy waves like this, and you can even do a little more, and we'll let this dry now. This wash now is going to dry, our second wash, and then our third wash, which will be our final wash, where we're going to do all the details. That's where we'll do some more final touches to the painting, and it'll really just become a beautifully finished painting once you have let this second wash dry. Now we're going to let our second wash dry here, and we'll come in and do our third wash. And what we could do right now is empty our water bucket again, because the water's getting pretty murky and muddy looking from doing all these secondary washes on our second glazing. So that's when we empty out our water bucket, put fresh clean water in our water bucket. I'll do that now off camera, so we don't have to worry about that. And I hope you're going to give me a thumbs up if you like this video. Hopefully you'll share this video to other artists that you might know, other watercolor artists or oil painting artists, whoever you might know in your artist communities. Hopefully you'll share this, because this is a really fun painting to do in watercolor. I think everyone can pretty much do it, whether you're a beginner or if you're more of an advanced painter, you're an old grizzled pro at watercolors. Doesn't matter. This is a fun one to do. Doesn't matter what level of painting expertise you have. You can definitely do this one, have a great time of it. And again, once we finish up, you're going to see how incredibly beautiful this looks. Okay, so we're going to let this dry now. Our second wash, remember that, the second wash too, when you're done with that one, let it dry 100%. And again, you can use a blow dryer. 5-10 minutes of blow drying will dry off your second wash, or you can let it dry 1 or 2 hours or 3 hours, depends on your room temperature and how much water you've put on. But and again, the way you know your paper is dry is when it's completely flat again. And we're using, again, the gum block paper, which is the paper that's all gummed around the outside edges. And once you paint on that and then you let it dry, the paper goes back to a perfectly flat state where it's completely flat, easy to paint on, and that's what we want. Right now the paper's all buckled like this. I don't know if you can see it on camera, but the paper right now is doing all of this kind of a thing. It's really hard to paint on a buckled paper like that when it's all wet and full of water. So that's why we do have to let that dry. So please, please, please let your paper dry between glazings and you'll never have a problem, okay? All right, let's come back in just a few minutes. We'll finish up the painting. All right, we're close to finishing up our painting. I'm hoping you're having a great time here. We're just enjoying all of the beautiful colors and the washes. Glazing technique is so much fun in watercolor. I'm hoping that you'll always give it a try, and you'll find that you really will get beautiful results with the glazing technique. It's really fun, and it really, again, a lot of professional watercolor artists do use the glazing technique because it really does kind of lend itself to that watery, lots of luscious colors and lots of water on the paper to give you that really watery, beautiful watercolor look to your paintings. So what I'll do is we'll mix up some more colors just to get another bit of things mixed up in our palette here. So we're going to have, again, that cobalt blue with a little bit of the burnt sienna, like that, and then a little bit more of the cerulean blue. Maybe we'll do a little more of the sap green again over here, cobalt blue here in the middle, and then a little bit of the ultramarine violet, which is the Winsor Newton. So we have, and then we have our orange over here, of course, that we'll do. So we have that. We have the orange and the little bit of cadmium red, like that. Okay, now I definitely wanted to darken up a little bit of the boats here. So you could take a little more of that burnt sienna, add a little bit of burnt umber. I would say a little bit of French ultramarine. I would say let's use the ultramarine violet. That might be better because we don't want to introduce a new color. Let's stick with the colors we started with and not really go into anything else new. So let's stick with the ultramarine violet, cobalt blue. That gives us a good dark there, and some burnt sienna, like that, and some more blue. There we go. And then let's get in our steamship here with a little bit of a darker dark. Let's even make it some more. Let's get in lots of that cobalt blue. I would say, yeah, let's make that cobalt blue really. Okay, looks good. And then a little bit of that shadow underneath it, the reflection underneath that, like that. And then we'll do the same thing. I'll take a little bit of a tissue, dry off my brush, go in, get a little more of this here. Let's do this sailboat here, like that. Sailboat there, and then a little more of that reflection of the sailboat there. And then we can do a little bit of that sailboat. And there's more masts over here. We can put some masts and things over here. So there's sailboats and things that are along this waterway. So let's get some of the verticals like that. And then this way we can have some fun and get some of them verticals and like that. Into the water, into the reflections. And same thing here. So just try, I always try to remember, I just look up here and say, okay, where are these going to kind of sort of come down and land in the reflections like that. And if they're a little bit higher up, they'll be a little bit lower down here. If they're a little shorter, they're going to be shorter over here. Just like a little indication of you want to pretty much match the, like this. You just want to match the height of the, like this. And you use the very, very fine point of your brush. And you just do a few here and there. Some you're going to do quicker than others. I'll put another boat over here and some reflections, like so. Okay, so we're just working in a little bit of some darker washes in here. Try to build that three-dimensional quality in on our paintings. So if you add some darks in here, and there's a few more boats over here, like that. That gives you that three-dimensional quality that you're looking for, of having things darker in the foreground here closest to us, and then in the backdrop where all these buildings are in the far distance, they may be like a half a mile that way, or maybe not. Maybe these up here are only close to us, and we'll do some more windows and things over here maybe. We'll do some windows in these buildings here since they're closer. And then as they trail off in the distance, we won't see any details really, and this is the fun part. You can add in some quick details though. You don't want to spend like a half an hour or 45 minutes trying to create these windows in these buildings that are here. Just have fun. You might need to do a little bit of pre-planning. You might want to, if you're not confident with firing in some windows like I'm doing, then sure enough, please take a ruler, make a little tiny, barely visible sketch line where you can get your lines going across in the same, height like this. For me, I've been painting 15 years. You trust me. I'm your friend here. I'm going to tell you how I do things all the time. I'm not going to try to hide anything. So that's why I say if you need to do a little bit of sketch lines to help yourself work quicker. So like you can see I'm going kind of fast here to do my very, very loose and fun marks on the buildings for windows and things like this, right? You can do the same thing very easily by just taking your time before you start painting and the paper's dry. You could take a ruler and you could put a ruler across your paper like this and draw a very, very tiny light pencil line that only you can see. That's very barely visible, but just enough that you can see it. And you draw 3 or 4 of those going like this, like 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then you can just go right across like this on that pencil line so that you're going to get those lines pretty even, pretty straight across there. And they don't have to be perfect, obviously. And then as they go off in the distance here, you don't have to worry about it. You're not going to see the windows in these buildings over here. But just over here, you will see them. And you can make a couple arched doorways here maybe, just to do a little different, something different. Like that. So the more close the buildings are closer to us right now, the more details you'll see, like maybe some arched doorways here. Like this. But as they go into the distance over here, you don't see that. You don't see the details at all. It's misty and it's cool. It's the sunset. It's in the distance. Okay, so that is looking pretty good. I think I can... There we go. And you fix up a few spots here and there as you go. So I hope you're having fun so far. Let's get this boat here. And we have like a boat here with some figures, maybe we have a person that's rowing the boat, and we have a couple people in the boat enjoying a nice evening, or sunset, in the evening here. And we have this person here. And then we do the reflections underneath this boat here. Like that. And you'll see how that works out really nicely. And again, that gives us some nice three-dimensional quality. We can make that a little darker. Burnt umber, burnt sienna, cobalt blue. Like that. All right, and now I'll do one more, kind of the icing on the cake, so to speak. That's what we're going to leave for last. Of course, I wanted to do this for effect. You're going to really enjoy this now. So now that we have everything here pretty much really all set, now the star of the show, the lead singer, as we would say, or the lead violinist in the orchestra, whatever you want to kind of think of it, it's going to be the real beautiful part of the painting where we're going to add in that gorgeous sunset, where we're going to add some beautiful orange and red paint to this sun here that we created right when we started, and we'll put those reflections of that sunlight right into the water. You'll see how it just kind of really sings out in the painting and really looks absolutely beautiful. Okay, so we're going to come back and do that in just a second. I just want to let this dry now, and then we can accomplish that last bit of beautiful detail in this painting, and you'll see how great it looks. Okay, all right, so we'll be right back. Okay, so we are really excited now. We're kind of finishing up the painting here. We're excited. It's almost like the frosting on the cake here. And what I'll do is I'm going to just clean this one spot of my palette so that we can have some really good, fresh, clean color here with our cadmium orange and a little bit of cadmium red for our glowing sunset. And then we add a little bit of blue and green. And we tone it down a little bit, maybe with a little bit of blue, purple, green. And we'll put a little bit of red there. Okay, so we kind of have everything all set now for our sunset and our sun glowing here in the sky as it's setting in the distance here. What I'll do is, before I do that though, let me just, one more time, let me revisit. So you will see that occasionally and I'm hoping if you're not subscribed, I'm hoping you're going to subscribe on the right-hand side below. This channel, I've been here on YouTube for over 5 years now doing watercolor painting tutorials. I'm hoping you'll join along every week with us. We're doing like 2-3 paintings a week. So you can join in anytime you want. But when you subscribe below on the right-hand side, all that's going to do is YouTube will just alert you when I've created a new video, so you kind of know that I'm here creating new videos every week and you won't lose me. I know some people have written me and they said it took me like 6 months to a year to find me again on YouTube, because YouTube is such a huge place and there's so many videos and so many artists, and sometimes it's really difficult to find a video or an artist that you like. So I'm thinking, if you're at the right place at the right time if you're here, and I don't want you to lose my channel as far as not being able to come back and see us again here as we're painting. So if you click on the subscribe button below on the right hand side, all that does is just YouTube will let you know we've created a new video, and you won't lose track of where we are on YouTube. And you'll also know that we're creating some new videos in the coming weeks, because we're working here every week on YouTube. So I'm here week after week, month after month, and year after year for you, so that you can work along with us and learn watercolor. I cover all the basics and fundamentals of watercolor, so you won't be, guessing on things. You'll know that you're learning the best quality methods and techniques in watercolor that you can learn that will actually really help you to get your watercolors looking beautiful, and you'll make a lot of progress. So I'm hoping you'll stick with me here. So again, here I'm going to just do a little bit of more of those little small bits over here of the water, the choppiness of the water. And I just do them in a few places. I don't want to go overboard here at all. But just in a few places here. Just a couple of those choppy bits of like that. I think that's plenty good. That's fine. Just to give it some texture down here in the bottom of the water here. So that looks really nice. Having that little bit of that choppiness here, the couple of little details. Okay, now I will empty the water bucket one more time. So I try to, again, I try to keep my water bucket, you know, change out my water in my water bucket frequently when I'm doing paintings. It just kind of can't hurt. And next we're going to do the final bits of real beautiful detail here. I will go with a smaller brush here. So I'm going to use a Da Vinci number 5 travel brush, and this is a synthetic brush. This actually comes with one of the palettes I think I have too. All of my art supplies, again, my tools of the trade, my art supplies that you're looking to kind of learn about, study a little bit about, compare pricing. If you're just starting out here and you're going to be purchasing some new art supplies, I want you to have all the tools you need. This palette actually is a great palette. It's a Whiskey Painter's private stock. It's called Whiskey Painter's Private Stock, and it's a wonderful palette. It's a metal palette, which I really advocate, and these are some pans that are inside. I customized this palette myself with a few different pans that I created myself, but for the most part, when you buy this palette, you're going to pretty much get everything that you see here pretty much, and as well as this free brush, which is a beautiful Da Vinci travel brush, round brush, synthetic, which means it's great. It doesn't flood out with too much water. When you use synthetic brushes in watercolor, it's very much a really good user-friendly brush for a beginner. So if you're just starting out, maybe your first couple weeks in watercolor, and welcome if it's your first time here seeing my video. Thank you so much for coming by and having confidence in me. I'm going to give you all the basic knowledge that you need in watercolor, you know, straight to you in a timely fashion, so you're not going to be at a loss at all. This Da Vinci number 5 is a beautiful brush. You can see it's got a really good, excellent point. It's synthetic brush hairs, which means it won't fill up with too much water, so you won't have too much problem with paint flooding off the tip of your brush. So then this, again, comes free with the Whiskey Painter's Private Stock paint box, which is an incredible box that would last you long, many, many, many years. So if you buy this paint box, it'll probably last you 20 years or more. So great paint box to have. I'm going to start using it a little more frequently, but I do have my Schmincke watercolor palette, which I really is my go-to, which I always have for YouTube here. It works great for my setup. So let's get started with our beautiful sun set here. I'll use some cadmium red too. Let's make that even more exciting. Wow, see how that looks great? And then we can add some cadmium orange. And this is what we want to do. We want to have a smaller brush like this with a fine point to get this sunlight, this actually glowing sun like that. All right, look how good that looks. Now we are going to add some beautiful orange and red reflections in the water. And I mix that with red and orange. And then as we go further out into the distance here, it's a little less. And I hope you've enjoyed this video. This is so much fun. I won't try to do anything kind of risky at all right now, like other washes or anything. I think this is fine. I think we actually I will add a little bit of that orange and red in a few spots here and there. And I blot up a few things here and there, but I wanted to add some of that orange and red just in a few spots. Okay, and I just wanted to, again, add some of that orangey red in a few little spots here and there around the painting so that it's not just one spot that we see it. So you could also add in a few other subtle areas though. I think that's what works best. If you just add it in a few, a little bit of that reddish, cadmium reddish color. You know, you might add it over here a little bit too. And a couple of the windows and doors. All right, thank you so much for coming by, painting along with me. We'll see you on the next video soon. And again, please, if you haven't subscribed, subscribe on the right-hand side below so you stay in touch with us. We're having a great time here on my channel. We're all together getting better at watercolor 1 week at a time. So when we get together every week, you'll be learning new techniques, new methods in watercolor. You'll be learning all kinds of interesting subject matter. We cover seascapes like this. We cover landscapes, still life with flowers, and we also cover portrait painting occasionally. We also work with ink and wash. So we do a lot of things with the watercolor medium, and you'll always have a variety too here. So you won't ever find that you'll be bored with my channel. You'll always have new things to challenge you, things to get excited about, to learn about, new things to create wonderful artwork. So we'll see you soon. Again, thanks for coming by, joining along. We'll see you soon, and I hope you have a wonderful time working on this painting.